This video is going to be very different. It's more free form. I decided to take more of an almost court-like angle for how I'm going to present it. Honestly, I was kind of inspired by this episode of Daredevil I saw, and I decided it'd be very interesting to try it out. And if people could tell me if you like it or don't like it, just let me know. I've been thinking a lot lately about questions of morality, of what's right and wrong, good and evil. These questions have been challenged a lot from many different angles, from many different viewpoints, for very, very various reasons. One I want to talk about today is that of the law and order branch of justice and how punishment. How do we discern, first of all, what's right and wrong? Is it a straight line? Is it these things, you must follow these specific ordinances to know if you're right or wrong? Is it more complicated? Is it more like pornography? You just know it when you see it. These questions have been challenged in so many ways. One would be having to question the way of the Nazis, seeing how they're not completely evil and actual people. That one really messed me up. How even the most evil people in the entire history of the world, at least modern history, are people. It is fascinating, but that's not the main topic of today. There's one thing that's been happening in my life, and it's especially sparked this. And while I have talked to people in the law and order branch, and they said that it is legal. They said it is completely legal, at least in the state I live in. But I still have to ask myself these questions of morality, of what's right and what's wrong. Because I believe that to be more important. Because what is the law and order branch if not punishing those who deserve punishment and giving justice and freedom to those who deserve it? What's more important? Oh yes, a court is supposed to be to uphold the law. Is that what we should be pursuing? Is that what we should continue to do? Is that what's important? Think about through history, or even modern times. If something's illegal, it doesn't inherently mean it's right or wrong. Just because something's legal doesn't mean it's right. Just because something's illegal doesn't mean it's wrong. Look at things like slavery. That was legal up until 1942. I say 42 because it was not a crime and was not punishable in a court of law. If you were to follow the way we're supposed to, where if the law says you can do it, if the law says you don't punish them, then that was completely okay. So 1942, but we know morally it's wrong. Relying on this idea of what's right and what's wrong, especially because of how much it changes with times, is essentially moral relativism. Saying that because of the times, not fully, it's at least not a full comparison, but at least fairly close. You can't question it because it's just relative. Because it's all the time, the culture, the situation. Think of things like cannibalism. In some places, they've practiced it. And relativism would say, yes, it's okay, because that's what the culture does. They say not to change anything we shouldn't be looking to. Shouldn't we be trying to, with courts, trying to set precedent that if something's isn't what's morally right or wrong, ethically good or bad, what's more important than upholding a stupid piece of paper? As well as the fact, not only that, these things are shown to be wrong. Like I've said with relativism and how we know what's wrong. It continues. Think of the war on drugs. Is it morally or ethically wrong to be a drug addict? By itself, those things specifically. Not talking about the crimes that could be committed because of it. I'm talking about that in specific. Is it morally wrong to damage your own life? Because if we're going to say that damaging and hurting your own life is morally wrong, and morally wrong in a way that should be punishable, shouldn't we say the same with suicide? Suicide could be argued as even worse than this, because you're directly ending your life. It's causing even more harm to yourself. While morally, I wouldn't say it's good, I also wouldn't say it's something you should be punished for. Just because something is illegal does not mean it's wrong, essentially. Or recently, weed. It was just legalized in most of the states. It's not even pretty sure fully legal in all the states. Is that morally wrong? Is it morally wrong? Is it the wrong thing to do to smoke weed? Should you be sent away for years, if not decades, for smoking weed? That's what the courts have said for decades. Is that what's right? Is that what we should be upholding? Is that what's more important? Is upholding truth, justice, and punishment for those who deserve it more important or less important than what a document says, than what a piece of paper says? What is more important? Is it doing what's right or doing what you're told?